Okay, so one of the things that I got asked is like, hey, Dado, I'm using ACES pipeline, and I want to be able to work with Color Lab AI. And it's absolutely possible. There is a kind of, way how we build it, which is this kind of standard way. I'm going to show you that, but I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to actually show you some tricks that I use in order to improve a little bit my workflow. There is a, like anything else, like when you start, working with something, you kind of figure out, there's a maybe better way or worse way how to do this. So as you always know, I never do ACES in project. If you ever end up like in a situation where, you are told, hey, you have to use these ACES settings, you can, talk to your people who are trying to convince you that actually working with nodes gives you exactly the absolutely same result. So there is no need for you to actually use this project level. And the reason why we don't want to work in project is because we want to have a little bit more freedom and more possibility to do things around IDTs, ODTs, and so on, so a little bit modify stuff around. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this metadata here in project settings, so just that I am basically able to help myself sometimes with certain kind of things, and I'm always going to put my LUTs as a tetrahedral just in case. Okay, so this is now how I'm basically working in ACES, so there is no project settings. Okay, so the first thing then we're going to do is we're going to use ACES transform nodes. So just so you know, these nodes are exactly identical to what happens on project level. It's the same code, it's same everything. The results are always the same. So don't worry about it. Like this is always going to be the same. Okay, so IDT always comes at the front. And I'm going to pretend at the moment that I'm working with Arilog C, and I'm going to output to ACEScct. So I'm basically using an IDT to go into ACEScct, and I have now also a choice, much easier, to say, hey, do you want to gamut compress? And yes, I do want to gamut compress. And now here is the first point where it becomes interesting that we are working on a node-based level. Okay, and this is this point here. I can actually choose on a clip-by-clip level how I want to use the gamut compression. Basically, sorry guys, we are not going to be able to record in the cloud. This is you, Luis, recording in the cloud, or you're recording locally. Somebody just asked me to record. We're going to have a recording, by the way. Don't worry, guys. We're going to post it on YouTube later, so we'll be fine. Okay, so what I want to do now is that I can say per clip if I want to do, but also what's really cool on the node-based level, I can go into parametric settings for gamut compression. And here I can tweak a little bit my gamut compression from clip to clip. Maybe I have some night scene with some blue LED lights. Maybe I have some police car or something like that. And then I can tweak it a little bit more if necessary. And that's something I can't do when I'm working on project level. So this is like a first point why you want to maintain this flexibility to work node-based color managed, right? Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my output, to my timeline in my case, because I want everything to kind of be managed in the same way. And there I'm going to put another ACES transform. And here I'm going to say, hey, I'm going from ACEScct, okay? Where is my ACEScct? Somewhere at the bottom. Here we go, ACEScct. And I want to output it to Rec 709. Okay, and that's it. I'm set. I have my IDT, I have my ODT, right? And I'm basically able to start working absolutely fine. And then so you can do now is you can go and apply basically your CDL, start grading your LUTs and everything else, right? So in between these two nodes, it's all now fully ACES. Okay, so this is very, very, simple way how we can start working. Now, first thing you're gonna notice, and this is one thing that everybody's going to tell you, and let me just show you maybe if I copy this now to this clip here. Okay, so this is the standard, ARRI Alexa test shot. You're going to notice that when we work in ACES, we get a little bit contrasty image, a little bit stronger kind of shadow crunch and stuff like this. And this is primarily to do with the RRT and ODT of the ACES, right? This is the characteristic that was built then. ACES 2.0 solves this problem. I'm going to show you a little later how we can integrate that into a workflow. But for the moment, just to understand, you can't sometimes choose to work in ACES 2. You have to work in ACES 1. And this is the first thing you're going to notice what's happening. Another thing that many people also tell me when they start working in ACES is that their controls, when they start doing left gamma gain, they behave a little bit differently. Okay? And it's true. So look, for example, if I go now here and I start moving my kind of left gamma gain, right? Yeah. You know, the curve has a certain characteristic because of the RT that kind of influences how your left gamma gain are behaving, okay? So there is a little hack that I use that I also suggest to you, and I'm just going to show you a little bit, you know, what I mean by that. And this is something that I do only for the primary grade. And now, look, this is not compulsory. I'm just telling you, like, there is a hack that you can use, that you can help yourself to improve this behavior and just save yourself a lot of time. And this is following. So I am going to now basically put now an inode first, okay? And the inode is a part of the FilmLab AI, and it allows us to convert my timeline into JPlog2. JPlog2 is a color space that is designed for color grading. So basically, everything around that space was built like, hey, how can colorists work better? How can we, you know, how can we get our left gamma gain to behave better? How can we get the dynamic range that we need with Alexa, for example, 35, right? And so there is a lot, you know, that, and how can I keep my mid-gray at 400 and all of those things, right? Okay, so now I'm going to go into my JPlog2, okay? And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now put my CDL here. Okay, so this is where my primary is going to be. And then after that, I'm going to go and put another node. And then here I'm going to put an O node. Okay, and this O node is now going to allow me to go from JPlog2, but instead of SD, I'm going to go scene, and I will say go to ACEScct. So what I'm doing effectively is I'm kind of sandwiching my primary between inode and O node in order for my primary to work in JPlog2, right? So what I can do now is I can then basically just start moving it, and then this curve behaves slightly differently, okay? And I will show you a little bit, you know, what happens. So look, so I'm going to, for example, make a change here of something like this, right? I'm just going to open a gamma, okay? And then let me now open another grade, and in this grade, I'm going to disable these two nodes. So I will just reset these two. Maybe let me delete them as well so that you can see the difference. Okay, so now basically what I would like you to do now is to pay attention to the shape of this curve. Okay, so look, so this is the curve, the same CDL, the same grade applied using CCT encoding, right? And this is the same curve applied using JPlog2 encoding. And you will notice, look, but this is the same. I moved my dial in exactly the same way. I've done nothing else, right? I've just moved my left gamma gain. But you see, because of the characteristic of the curve, because of the characteristic of the encoding of JPlog2 and its design, you know, towards, you know, colorists' way of working, right? And also the fact that it assigns for every stop of exposure exactly the same code value, and that it has this wonderful roll-off, right? Which is, you know, bigger than Alexa 35, and it kind of, that beautiful roll-off kind of allows your highlight to behave a little bit differently, right? You get like a different shape of your curve. So this is JPlog2, this is ACEScct, JPlog2, ACEScct. So what I do with that is I kind of find that I'm saving myself a lot of time, because I like kind of, you know, my look to behave in a certain way, okay? And because of that, I just, you know, I just like that, you know, I can move my dial just a little bit instead of like having to constantly like compensate with a little bit gain, a little bit left, whatever else, you know. So I have a less kind of, you know, dials to move, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you then the result of that. So if I now come here to my standard, you know, ARRI Alexa, shot, test shot, and I'm now going to copy this pipeline that I just created using the JPlog2. You see now I can grade it, and you see already kind of from the beginning, you know, it kind of just feels like, oh, well, kind of this fits a little bit better. I can feel, and look now I move my gain, my gamma a little bit, and I just have like a straightaway. I'm closer to where I want to be. It kills a little bit some of that very contrasty look that are necessary. Didn't want it in the first place to begin with. Okay, and what's the beauty of that? Well, the beauty of that is now that I can actually do my automatic matching, my AI matching, also in this space, okay? And there is kind of two ways how to do it, depending how you guys want to work. I'll show you one way. So if you have a Film Lab and Color Lab, this is an option to do it, but I'll show you also how to do it just with Color Lab. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and say, okay, give me Color Lab. Okay, so there we go. And then I'm going to say to Color Lab, hey, I want to work in JPlog2. Okay, so now all of my matching and everything is going to be happening, or my CDL is going to be calculated in JPlog2, because this is how I'm planning to do my grading, my primary, at least in this case. You know, I'm just calculating my primary. Everything else is staying in the ACEScct. And also another thing which is really great for you to understand. JPlog2 is only log encoding curve, but the color space is actually AP1, which is identical color space to the CCT. So we don't do any kind of color manipulation in terms of the gamma changes. This all stays the same. All we do is we kind of a little bit recalculate how we map our exposure and tonal scale so that, you know, the controls behave a little bit better. So you know, so if anybody says, is this going to change my image? Is it going to be compatible? No, it is really still ACES, right, in terms of the gamut and color. It's just that the behavior of your tools is going to be a little bit better, right? And, you know, because we said, okay, we really love this, you know, we want this also to work in AI, it's available to work in AI as well. So I'm going to now apply a little trim here as well. And that's normally how I like to work, right? So, and I show you like the strategy behind it, okay? Okay, so let me now kind of completely reset this guy here, and I'm going to say, hey, you know, I have now two options. If I have material that is really nicely shot, and I want to be in control to how I'm going to, you know, get like, you know, the exposure done. I don't want a necessary eye to do it. I'm pretty good at that. Then all I do sometimes is just use this white balance. And I click on this white balance, and that just kind of corrects a little bit kind of things that sometimes happen with an image, like, you know, maybe something got, you know, a little bit, you know, so it doesn't really change any exposure. So then I'm free to use my primary, right? And I'm kind of going to go and look, oh, perfect. I got a great looking result. One click, great result, right? The other option is basically, if I was to say, no, I think, you know, I have problems with exposure, if shot doesn't really sit correctly or something like that, I can then go and press balance, right? And this balance is then going to try to kind of give me some sort of exposure or something, you know, like, and usually, like, you know, it goes a little bit more contrasty. I'm not really, you know, always the biggest fan of that. And then what I would do is I would then basically go and say, okay, give me just a little bit of trim. And this trim, in my case, is consistent. You know, I kind of, you know, find that if I adjust this trim in one way where I go like, okay, this is really like what I want. You see the color has also got a little bit contrast, a little bit more saturated. And I say, okay, but this is the look that I like, right? Then this trim is going to stay consistent for at least this scene. So I tend to leave trim untouched, and that way I get the consistent scene matching, right? And then in primary, what I normally do then is I'm literally just kind of, you know, correcting a little bit exposure or something like that, so that I kind of have just a little bit changes that are coming to the AI, and then AI and trim do the actual look, okay? Now this is one way to do it. Now if you don't have Film Lab, what you can do still, you can just go and say, okay, I don't have this, so let's remove this, you know, nodes for JPlog in and out, okay? But you can still stay, you see, you can still stay here in JPlog. Because when you go JPlog in and out, look, if I'm just going to reset this match, when you go JPlog in and out, when you just say, okay, let me just reset this trim as well. So if I go in and out, right, nothing really changes, right? because you go, you know, from ACEScct into one color space, and because JP looks bigger, right? It has a wonderful characteristic, again, that same trick I showed you when I do lift gamma gain. So what happens is that basically, you know, Color Lab AI calculates that CDL and applies it in that color space for you. So you see, when I apply it, oh, I get this result, you see? But for example, if I now go and say, well, you know, theoretically, I should be saying I'm working in ACEScct because my timeline is in ACEScct, which is how most people at the moment are using, you know, Color Lab AI. Well, when I do that now and I say balance, right, what I get is much contrasty image. Again, you know, this is because of that characteristic of the RRT curve. So when we move our dials, we get a little bit more contrast image. And I find that for me, what really works better is when I actually calculate all of those CDLs in JPlog. And you know, it doesn't matter to you. Like at the end of the day, it's just a lift gamma gain. You know, it's so now when I say balance, oh, I get like a, yes, this is nice. It kind of gives me a little bit more kind of soul, like it feels a little bit nicer. And then I can then use my trim to kind of just bring down a little bit this highlight like this, and I would say, okay, this is now my shot. This is the kind of the base grade, okay? So this is a kind of the trick number 17, you know, how you can accelerate yourself at work. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna kind of show you like, probably, you know, a little bit more difficult scenario. You know, it's nice when somebody does a test shot perfectly exposed and it's shot on Alexa. It's usually looking very good. But how about if I'm working with red, with a bunch of stuff that's from different locations, different exposures, blah, 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 and I have to work in ACES. I mean, this is just like, oh my God, you know, what am I going to do? Okay, so let's go and work with red. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change our IDT to be red, white, gamut, RGB. And here, you definitely want to stick to gamut compress. Like when you work with red, red has this massive potential, you know, kind of saturated reds and greens, like, you know, you really need to work with gamut compress. Don't ignore it, you know, this is absolutely a necessity. With Ari Alexa, you can get away with it sometimes, but not, you know, with red, okay? Okay, so I'm going to reset all of these. I'll stick to this workflow as if I don't have a Film Lab AI. I'm just going to work, you know, using my JPlog 2 for the AI part of matching, right? I'm going to reset this. Okay, and then basically what I'm doing now is following. So I have like a couple of options. So again, I can say, just give me a white balance, right? It's going to give me this white balance. And then I can then use a little bit my primary, and this is my result. You see, I don't have to do too much of noodling, you know, moving lift gamma gain too much. No, my white balance just corrects the colors, makes them nice and straight, you know, that my whites are white, my warms are not too much, you know, and then boom, I get like a really beautifully neutrally graded shot. Then from here, I can then start applying show lights and all of this. So this is kind of very, very easy way how to do it. And you see, I can then just to kind of to show you. So you see, I would then do it here, reset this one. I then say, hey, just give me the white balance for this shot. Oops, that one gone a little bit stronger, right? So let me see if I was to change the exposure. Oh no, yeah, this is because it's a night shot. It gone a little bit like that. There we go. So this is the one. Okay, now let me go here, reset it here. Then give me just a white balance. Perfect. I fixed that, you know, kind of bluish tone. I can then just go here and say, hey, maybe I want a little bit moodier. Job done. Then I can come here. Again, let me just reset it here. What do I have? Give me a little bit just a white balance, please. Thank you very much. I go back to primary. I fix the exposure and so on. Okay. And that's a very easy way for you to kind of go and just bring balance the whole timeline, you know, like and just make it work very, very quickly, you know, to where you need it to be. So normally what I would do, as I'll show you, let me go reset this. I would, you know, grab this as a still. So this is my basic, you know, technical node, okay? And I would then go as well and apply this basic technical node to everything first. So I wouldn't go clip by clip, right? I just apply to all, right? And then I just go here and I say, okay, give me, you know, white balance, give me white balance, give me white balance, give me white balance, give me white balance, okay, give me white balance, give me white balance, okay? And then I'll go shot by shot, and I just go and correct a little bit exposure, and I say, okay, let me see what's happening here, a little darker, because the white balance doesn't do anything, right, with our you know, exposure. It really just calculates, you know, how you want your primaries to look. This is looking already pretty good. This one I'm gonna open a little. I mean, especially on the snow shots, guys, you're gonna have so much time saved, because, like, you know, this is generally really hard to do. And that's it. So then I basically got, I've passed it, you know, and I'm in a pretty good state. Alternatively, let's say, well, you know, I'm actually, you know, have to kind of get this timeline to look like a consistent. There has to be a certain look, you know, that we're going to apply to it. So instead of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe go into my reference, right? And let's go and find a reference, you know, something that is, you know, maybe something as, you know, let me see. This is too dark. Okay, maybe like this. No, I like maybe this one. You know, I'm so you know, because funny, because when I'm doing with AI, you know, the content's not always what's important. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. It's giving me a really nice look, right? Okay, and then what I'll do is if I'm doing that, I will then also you know, use a little bit of my trim node. Okay, and the trim node's gonna help me. And look what happens when I trim it a little bit like this. Okay, then I'm gonna go and select all of my shots. I'm gonna say color, and I'm gonna say ripple node changes to selected clips. Okay, so now it has basically applied the trim to everything. Okay, and then I can do now and say, all right, okay, sorry, I'm back unmuted. And then what I'm going to do is now I'm going to say, okay, next shot.
I'm sorry, Dado, can you unmute yourself, please?
1 second. How do I do that? Unmute myself. Better? I can hear me now? All right.
Excellent, thanks.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, cool. So now look, so what I have now is I have a reference. I calculated my trim on the first shot for that reference. Okay, and then what I do is I go shot by shot, right? And I say, okay, come here, and then I say match, and it's now using that same reference, and it's trying to match it, right? And then I'm just super easy, sorry, I'm gonna now super quickly and go and apply look to everything. So now I'm basically trying not just to do a technical pass, but I'm trying to give everything like a look pass. And you know, this guy is, because it's night shot, it's gonna like do it. In version 4, you know, we'll have a like a new system which is gonna allow us to, you know, introduce a higher variety of possibilities if you have a day and night. So we're training a new model that is going to give you more than one reference. But look at it now. So I'm basically now just doing a little match like this. And there we go. This is beautiful. And this one here, give me a match. Excellent. And then this one here, and give me a match as well. Perfect. Okay, so then I'm just gonna go and close it a little because it's a little nighty shot. And that's it, you know. So I'm in a very, you know, very quick way. I got now not just the kind of technical balance so that shots are like, you know, have their own character. I've actually applied like a grade on top of them, and they feel a little bit, you know, more as a part of one. Personally, I don't know whether this footage would ever supposed to be look as in a part of one, but I just really use it as a demo material to show you, like, you know, how you can take, you know, different things and you know, at least, you know, wrap them into some sort of look, and then, you know, start working from there. But, you know, like ideally, like what we would do here is we would still probably wanted to make this a little bit more night shot, you know, and with this shot as well, like, you know, I would probably like I want to have a little bit more character, and with this shot as well. like, I would want to do this more than just like, kind of just apply like a neutral grade on it. Okay, and that's kind of, I promised you I'm going to have one more trick for you, which is going to help you immensely when you start working with ACEScct, and that's kind of, that kind of whole story from the beginning with the RRT. The RRT was a wonderful thing, when it was invented. However, the aesthetic, the screens, everything evolved since, and it has a lot to do with the reality that we have a much more HDR now happening. The screens are capable of, presenting us with a better picture. If you think about it, when ACES was created, we had primarily CRT screens, or as screens with standard dynamic range, so that contrast of a CCT looked good aesthetically, but we moved away from that look now, right? And it was supposed to, anyway, I think when ACES was created, it was supposed to be something that you can just apply and then get to some sort of aesthetic look, and we were calling for something which is a little bit more neutral. And the biggest advantage, absolutely, the biggest advantage of the whole workflow of ACES 2.0 is the ODTs, the kind of the output device transforms. And you can actually already now take advantage of that. So let me show you how to do that. So now instead of me just going to standard ACES 1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and say, okay, give me inode, okay? And then I'm going to go and say this inode, my input here is ACEScct. And by the way, these inodes and O-nodes, they're super optimized. They won't slow you down. They won't reduce any, like, frame rate, because they're very, very light, this code. And then what I'm going to do now, I'm going to say, I'm going to output to SDR, but not ACES 1, but going to output to ACES 2. So you don't have to wait until ACES 2 becomes a reality, or wait, because before DaVinci integrates it, I believe they're going to do it soon. I'm not sure why everybody's waiting, but in any case, you can already now start working with ACES 2. So look at this now, like, look how suddenly the images just become so, that kind of grab of that contrast is gone. The colors are rendered, just a little bit more nicer. I don't know, like, I just really love the look of, ACES 2. Look at it now. Look how kind of, it just doesn't feel as forced. Look at the skin tone suddenly, right? It's very, very, very nice. And this is I think this is going to be wonderful. Once, kind of the ACES 2 has been so adopted to everybody, I think we're going to see, like, across the board, things just improving. Like, I don't know, like, this is the problem. Like, the standard has to be adopted by everybody, and then suddenly we're going to start seeing images just, starting to breathe and feel a little bit better. But if you don't want to wait for that to happen, and you want to stand out from the crowd, you want to, be able to offer your clients better looks now, you got it. The Film Lab is already supporting ACES 2.0, so you can start using it straight away. So that would be like all I had. Half an hour is roughly what I wanted to do. So everything I had for you, like, in terms of how to work with ACES and our tools, like with some tricks, how to improve it. And I'm now open to any questions. Andor, you had a question. Let's start with Andor, and then I'm going to go a little bit scroll down with the chat because it's been moving too fast. I wasn't able to read. Andor, please unmute your microphone. Let me know.
Hi, Dado. I was curious, you're using the JP-log node to sort of control the behavior. What would be your timeline setting in your project settings?
CCT.
Okay, CCT.
Yeah, because it's the same gamut as CCT, and they are very similar, by the way. But kind of JP-log is, I would say, a little bit kind of, I don't want to say improved version, but, a version that's adapted to the new requirements, for higher dynamic range. And has this kind of side effect that your controls just behave a little bit better. But in terms of the calculating the color space and everything, CCT is the same. Anything that's AP1.
Gotcha.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Then how, okay, anybody else, just type in X if you want to unmute your microphone. How would you work with VFX, like bringing the XR file that was exported? Oh, no, you don't. If something is like so like, let's say like, you're bringing an XR file, right? And you say to this XR file, okay, so then what you do is you basically, let me just go backwards, right? And then you go here, and you say, oh, I don't want to be on the timeline level. Let me be on the node level. 1 second. And what you do is you just say on your IDT level, on your ACES, you tell it, hey, I am now working from ACEScg, right? There we go, ACEScg. And I'm outputting that to CCT. You really want to color grade in log. I know that you guys figured out you can do so. Look, grading in linear is frankly boring you because the only thing you can do is offset. There's only one operation really that you can do or gain. I mean, so if you are bringing material that is linear like ACEScg, if you want to grade it, you need to put it in log first in order for it to start behaving and, so you can start doing something with it. Because your controls are useless in linear. Like you got absolutely nothing you can do with it. So you must move it into log first. So that's basically the kind of the concept of grading in general. Okay, so next question was Maurice. Does ACES auditing node override project settings metadata? Yes, of course. Yes. The metadata is used, for example, for color space transform, or it's used when you render. It uses that setting as a kind of the metadata that embeds in a file to what file it is. So that's really just using that to kind of embed certain metadata where it requires metadata, right? But it's not going to make any changes to image itself. It doesn't affect image. It doesn't affect image in any way. It's just using this metadata to something. When it says use as timeline, then it has a metadata to what timeline setting is supposed to be. But it's not really making any actual changes, right? It's not really doing anything like that. Yeah. If you want to work in if you are going to work in HDR, you should select your output to be HDR because with that you will get all the extra options, right? Let me show you why is this important. So if I want to go now and I say, well, I want to output to, let's say, P3D65 1000 nits. Yeah, I want this because then it gives me this option to say HDR mastering is for 1000 nits, and when I do that, then I also send, I embed a flag in my file that this file is 1000 nit file. So when it's rendered, anybody who opens that file and it recognizes those flags will automatically switch the screen to HDR. And also, if you have a HDMI cable connected to your screen, like some LG HDR TV, then that TV will get a flag that is receiving a signal, that is HDR, and it's going to switch itself automatically. So this is really important. If you're going to be working in HDR, make your output settings to be HDR, the actual settings that you're going to use. I don't necessarily, demo on Zoom in HDR, which is why I'm not doing it, but probably soon we will be doing HDR Zooms. Wait, where? Mark says, where is the best place to position AI or effects when using strong light or rave grade? You want to do it all in front of all of your LUTs, right? So Mark, all of your kind of raven grades and LUTs and looks, they all come after. They all come after. So you're really using this for your primary. You're using this for your live gamma gain, right? And you want to put live gamma gain in front of anything like that. And so depends on your node tree structure. You would probably be putting it maybe even on a timeline level, right? But what I would do now is I would say, okay, here I can just go and put like a, let's say a look designer, right? And I would say this look designer, hey, you're going to be ACEScct in and ACEScct out, okay? And I want you to be basically some sort of Kodak curve, let's say like this, and I want to use my Kodak MPF stock, and I'm going to put my negative to be a Fuji, so I'm going to go neg2 and be a Fuji, no, Agfa, let's say Agfa, right? And then you're going to use little push and pull, right? Give it a little bit like this. And then on my subtractive, I'm just going to push a little cyan because it feels like a little bit kind of too saturated, a little bit like this. And then in my post-processing, I'm going to enable my FPE like this. And there we go. So now I have like a little film emulation, print emulation kind of going on here. Okay, but, so just to understand, this is still in scene referred. So everything I'm doing ACES in, ACES out, right? So I'm not really, like this is the cleanest way how to get any film print emulation going. Like, you know, you just make sure you always scene in, scene out, and let then the ODTs do their job for tonal mapping. That's generally how I would do it.
Yeah, but
Tell me, Mark.
I've been struggling because I'm working with some serious stuff on a TV series that's all exterior medieval battles, and when I use it with the Raven grade, and I tried it before and after the AI, like to just balance, like, or try to match, and it seems that I saw in your demo today, sometimes it overcorrects.
Correct.
Like it makes it look a little too strong.
Correct.
Or even almost bleach bypass, and I couldn't get it to do what I'm seeing you do today.
So when that happens to you, right? So the number one thing is just start using white balance more. Okay, so the white balance is going to help you with color. And you know, I'm pretty sure you're pretty good just moving your lift gamma gain a little bit to get the exposure where you want it to be. You understand? And your Raven grade is going to do the contrast curves anyway. So you really, I don't have to do matching itself like so much, you know, with it. So just use white balance to begin with. Okay, the other thing I do, and you see what I do, I always use a little trim afterwards, you know, because what I do is I match it, with my trim correct that match, because that's always going to be there. The character of the match, you know, what's trying to do is going to be consistent. That's one thing I can guarantee you. No matter what shots you match, the way how the lift gamma gain is going to like try to match it is always going to be consistent.
But can I ask you this though?
Yeah.
Let's say there's a shot that's so out of whack that I need it to try to match one of my prior grades and say match to the still, which that's what I was trying to do.
All right, so look,
But it should be able to work with the LUT you're using. Can it see through the LUT, or does it get confused with
No. So okay, let me explain. So let's say you say, okay, this is my reference now. I need this to be my reference. This is the shot, right? So what you do is you come here to this AI, right? And then you say save as reference. Okay? So what's important is that you see it saved it as reference. Okay? So you see this is the reference. Okay? Okay. Now look, it grabbed it as a primary. Okay? It didn't grab it post-LUT. It grabbed it pre-LUT. That's also very important, right? Because if you have put the AI node post-LUT, it would wait for the LUT to do this job and then grab it as a reference. And you don't want that, because then it's going to try to match LUT on top of LUT, right? So that's why I say in front, okay? Okay, so now watch this now. So I come to this shot now, and because I am pre-LUT, right? Now when I say match, right, it's going to say, oh, no problem, this is the match for you, right? Because it's using this one here. Because it's pre-LUT. Okay. So you understand? So you let the LUT, where it needs to be. Let the LUT do its job. You know, LUT is always going to get your beautifully balanced signal from the CDL, and it's going to push it and do it. So that's basically where you're going to do it. And you see next shot, oh, listen, I have a now completely new reference. You know, can you please match this for me? No problem. I just say match it. There we go. It's there, right? Okay. And then what you do, Mark, is you do a little, like I say, oh, let me see a little trim. But don't do it on a shot by shot. You see what faster way of doing it, you go through the timeline like this. Look what I'm doing. I go through the timeline and I say match. Right? I match, right? I match. So it's much faster for me to go like this, right? okay? And then I move on to my primary, right? And then I just do trimming, okay? Okay, fantastic. Now I'm on my primary and I go like, okay, trim this guy a little, you know, trim this guy a little, right? And then that's much faster way because it saves you a lot of clicking back and forth. You know, you don't really need to click a lot of back and forth, right? You just go like, okay, that's it, I'm done, right? So that would be, you know, way to do it.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll give that a try.
Yeah, you see, we have to do a live stream for me and you to finally catch up.
I feel like I work in a more specific way than a lot of people, so yeah, we probably should.
Yeah. Look, you know, there is always a way to adapt it, you know, because, but just think about it, like, you know, my AI is addition to my CDL, to my primary. Ideally, you only want to get exposure adjustment first in front of my AI. And then everything else comes afterwards, basically.
Okay. All right.
Yeah?
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So then we have here. Who else is question? I noticed that just using inode and node was loading the system pretty heavily. I created two LUT with look design and replaced inode and node and get real-time playback. Oh, interesting. That's unusual, you know, because inode and node are codes. They don't even have, they are very, very light. You know, so, but okay, in regards to that anyway, yes, you're right, you can go and make LUTs, but just so you guys, you know, we are opening JPlog 2, so it's not going to be limited to us. We're going to allow other people to integrate it into their workflows, and we're going to give you DCTLs as well. So, you know, I really want this to be as easy for you to integrate it. Right now, you know, I understand, you know, it's a little bit tricky, you know, you have to have a film lab and this and that. You know, but we are going to announce it at the Hollywood Post Alliance retreat in February. If you're in and around California, you're more than welcome to see us. We're going to have a little booth there, and we will be basically promoting the JPlog 2 licensing as well. Apart from that, we're going to show some other interesting things that's in progress. Another question. Can you show a teal orange look, the way to do it with Color Lab? This is crazy. Oh my God. Actually, you know what? I show you how to do it very easy way. Actually, let me just show you a very easy way. So let me just show you. I'm gonna try to go do it like, I love it. Can you say is crazy. People still like this one. All right, never mind. So ACT, CCT. So I'm going to make orange and teal using Look Designer. This is the story that it's kind of a perfect example now to what I was saying to Mark, right? So have a look. So now what I want to do is I want to reset all of my primary and my trim. Okay, so I kind of, you know, so let's start just with that. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to use my AI at all. I'm going to go just and adjust a little bit exposure because this is kind of definitely a little bit lower exposed. So I'll just adjust that so that I have a good starting point. This is generally, if you're building a look, before you start doing a lot, like make sure that your shot's properly exposed first, right? That you can see what you're doing. Right? Okay, so let's say this is kind of my kind of look. Okay. And then I'm going to go and say, give me CCT here. All right, great. So this is better. Excellent. So now what you do is you go here to the negative and then you go to major. Why major? Because major is the positive kind of stuff, right? And then, if I'm not wrong, is a major C. Let me see. I can do major B as well, for example. That's a good one, right? Okay. And then I'm also going to go for a very standard Kodak, maybe like a little bit like a, okay, I'm going to use this one, 2383. And then I'm always, generally, I apply some post-processing when I'm doing a lot of film print emulation, right? And I do a little limit on that because I don't want it to be like a too crazy, like I want to just, you know, some that. So you see, so what I did now was this before my look and now after my look. So you see you have, you know, teal in your shadows, right? And if we kind of look here on our vectorscope, let me show you that. Okay, so you see, so this was changed normally balanced, and now I have clear stretch in orange and teal. The shot that I'm using here at the moment is not necessarily the most obvious because there is a lot of skin tone, but you know, I got it, right? And that's basically now the thing. So all I do now in my AI, I go and I say white balance a little bit, right? And that's gonna go and give me the white balance, but my orange and teal processing is still gonna put everything into orange and teal, right? So you see, so like I then now gonna come to this shot and I say, hey, I want this shot now to also be orange and teal. So I just do say, hey, white balance it. And there we go. Look, there's teal in a shadow, orange in a highlight. And let's go and do the face, because face is also very good. How I'm gonna do that? Great. I just do white balance. Fun. Fantastic. There we go. There's teal and orange. So you know, you really try to help yourself by using, you know, tools instead of, you know, trying to do it. I mean, I could like kind of show you how I could do it with Live Gamma Gain, and that's probably how I would elevate the look a little bit, like, you know, maybe exaggerate it if I feel like it, you know, but that's completely unnecessary. But again, if I feel like, no, I really think this is a very specific way how I want it to look, that's absolutely no problem, because then you can just grab this shot to be your reference, right? And then you say, hey, can you please now come, okay, and make this be my match, right? So it's going to use that skin and it's going to use it orange and teal like as a way for you to do it. So you get me, like, you know, you have options how to like use your references as well if there is a very specific CDL setting that you want to go for, okay? Okay, wow, lots of questions. Guys, you're too fast. Wait, one second. Luis, I asked the pro colorist if she'd mentor me every now and then, and 200 per hour, made some excuse on being millionaire. Okay, all right, sorry guys. So probably start by AI matching, then have a shared node with I look after. Very good question, Carl. Yes, Carl, we need to connect, man. We need to connect. Yes, thank you very much. Lars, question again, sorry. Is your AI tool matching trained specifically on ACEScct near D60, color volume picture trained on JPlog D65 example? If only trained, okay, now look, we are not necessarily measuring what's the data that we use for training, right? So we have a huge variety of images in our training data. All training data is generated using, you know, stuff like Midjourney, and now we're using something from Black Forest Labs. But basically, you know, the white kind of point of, or like let's say this white balance, right, is really using the D65, but probably I have to tell you like that, you know, like that if anything, you always see that we move a little bit towards D60, but that's not the problem for you, right? If you say a kind of look, if you say I have to have a specific temperature, right, that I want to do, so what you do is this. Look, let me just reset this match. You say white balance it, so this white balance is going to be consistent no matter what. And then you scroll down a little bit, and here you have a temperature. And this temperature is basically calculated in Kelvin, right? So you say, I want to add now 500 Kelvin because you said you want it to be D60 instead of D65, right? So look, I added now this temperature there, right? Look, so now whenever you do a white balance, but the only thing you have to do is then you have to basically, you know, copy this setting, right? I'm going to copy it now. And I come to this node here, and I'll paste this setting. And then I do white balance here, okay? What's going to happen, it is automatically going to include your shift for white balance that you want from the white balance that our algorithm's calculating, okay? So we'll be as consistent as we can. No matter what the target value, you can readjust your target value. So hopefully that answered your question on that. Lars, very good. Is there a trial version of Color AI? Yes, the trial version of Color AI is Color AI, colorlab.ai free-trial. free-trial, and you can choose between creator or this is a pro version that I'm using. You get 15 days completely free. And yeah, we're making it better and easier. So, you know, like for you guys to do it, you know, the tutorials are there. There is like, you know, on our website, on our YouTube, there's lots of stuff. And as I said, every Friday, the Color Lovestream, and, you know, I'm going to be able to, you know, answer your questions. By the way, like maybe type in the chat any suggestions, what you would want to know next week. If anything interesting, I'm going to go and put it. Anything to share about ACES 2.0, Maurice? It's wonderful. That's all I can say. It's the best thing ever. I've been working with it ever since, you know, I got it, and it hurts. Okay, let me just show you. Like this. Look, I've been in ACES 2.0 now all the time. Okay, now look at this. ACES 2, right? And now I'm gonna go to ACES 1. Watch the difference. Oh my God! Look at it now. This is what we got now. This is what you're working with right now. And like, look, ACES 2. Bam! Oh, you know, it's really hard to go back. I have to tell you that. If anything I can share with you about 2.0, it's hard to go back. Okay, there's another advantage of us working with the JPlog 2 for color management, because look, I don't have to be working, you know, you know, like all color management so far was limiting you that you can only use DaVinci White Gamut, you can only use Ari, you can only use ACES. That's not the case anymore. With, you know, FilmLab's adoption of JPlog 2, what you can do is you can say, oh, give me 709 by Ari C4, right? Wow, how about that? You know, and you get exactly the same result as if you would be color grading using that color space. And it's just, you know, that flexibility is just beautiful. And I always teach my students as well, like, you know, ODT is the creative tool. Do not, you know, limit yourself. You know, and this is the biggest issue. Like when somebody asks me, why are you and Dada not using DaVinci Color Space Conversion? Well, I can't use it because it gives me only one ODT, and I don't even like it. I don't like it. I don't like that ODT from DaVinci. I love the roll-offs and my shadows. I love that to behave differently. I love to have a pedestal on a shadow, for example, right? You know? So like one thing that I really like is this kind of thing when I go and say, give me my waveform monitor, right? You see how my grades have got this pedestal between my blacks and my zero on the scopes. There is a difference, there is a gap. Yet my shadows still look very strong. You see my shadows nice and compressed. Well, for that you need a good ODT. And it's not DaVinci's, I'm afraid, you know? So anyway, I loved it for many other reasons, but not for its ODTs. Okay, let me see the questions. Can you see the questions? Hey guys, if you have any question, put an X. Thank you, Douglas. Bernard, will Color AI standalone allow us to send a clean feed to reference monitor? Yes, we are working on it. We are working on it. Can we use a shared node with Color AI only for white balance to have that shared shift of colors? Oh, you could do that, yeah. You could do that as well. Or you could save your you know, white balance as an XO1 and then you load it, for example. That's also a way how to do it. It's great to see such a well-known colorist here. Of course, we are in Los Angeles, guys. Where will the white paper or technical paper on JPlog be released? It will be released on February 16th. Okay, any news for Apple, Tin Man for Apple ProRes? ProRes RAW. Yeah, we are having a licensing stuff, you know, like Apple, of course, you know, wants you to sign contracts with licenses and stuff. So, you know, we needed to change some of our code in order to get a license. So, you know, and so, yeah, it's happening. I'm sorry, you know, it's kind of, you know, completely unnecessary if you're asking me, but, you know, we have to do it. So, sorry, we have to do it. Is there a trial version of Color AI? Yes, there is one. Okay. No, sorry guys. So go to free-trial. We changed that link. I'm going to have to improve those links a little bit because we renamed them a little bit. Okay. Mark, hey, fan guy loves it. Excellent. Excellent, guys. Okay, cool. So that will be all I had for you for today. Basically, I thank you very much for joining. It seems to be a wonderful crowd. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All color lovers. So color Lovestream #1 is fantastically gone for the first one. I'm going to repost this on YouTube as well for you guys, for all of you who were not able to do it. And then keep an eye. I'm going to just see a little bit through the chat and then decide what is going to be the subject for the next week. I already have a couple of ideas. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you same time, same place, Friday for another Color Lovestream. Take care, everybody. Keep good looks coming. I'm looking forward to seeing you, what you're going to do with this as well. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye. Have a great time. Bye-bye.